got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me. Hurt my feelings.
Welcome back to another episode of Trending Fantasy. I'm John Bauer. Find me on X at the Bauer Club. And we have Mitch Sorensen at DynoMC. This week on Trending, I told Mitch, I said, listen, looking at 2025 rookies, the NFL Combine is behind us. I want to know rookies that you need to leave your draft with, Mitch. But we're going to put a spin on it. We're going to do one from round 1, one from round 2, 3, and 4. Look at the range that you're looking to take them. And obviously, if you have to leave your draft with them, you should be a little bit above consensus. Not necessarily a ton, but going through, we got 4 players that Mitch is looking to leave his rookie drafts with. And we are looking at this as if it's a 12-team superflex, 2 PPR for tight ends, PPR otherwise, start 10 lineup league. So, Mitch, in round 1, you said you are looking to leave every draft with none other than Colston Loveland in that range of 106 to 110. Again, extra point for tight ends, and you have him at tight end 2. How big of a gap, if any, should there be between Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland?
So let me just say first, I tried to pick a player in the first round that wasn't in the top 3 that we all love, right? So this was the player that I picked of, the other guys. For me, I personally have thought this whole time that Colston Loveland is better than Tyler Warren. But the Dynasty community doesn't see it that way, so I'm not going to go out and tell everybody, hey, just don't listen to what everybody else is saying, just listen to what I say. But going back to that national title run, Colston Loveland was a stud. He was doing it at age 19. He's 20 now. I mean, he did this as a sophomore and junior at Michigan. And I know that offense was terrible, but that offense was him this year. It's all that they had. I know we had a couple issues with drops early in the season, but it's not something I'm worried about. To me, I think he matches up so well with Sam Laporta. Like, Sam Laporta's game and Colston Loveland's game are so close to each other. Neither of them are going to come out and be George Kittle to where they're mauling dudes, they're blocking him, laughing at him while they're pancaking him, right? That's not their game. But what he does bring is, I believe he brings elite fantasy upside at the tight end position. And so I'm more than happy in a tight end premium league to take a Colston Loveland than take a shot on a guy that we both love in Luther Burden, right? Because just in that tight end premium league, give me the guy that I think can be the absolute star. And I think Colston Loveland can do that and should do that.
There's kind of I think part of the issue is he didn't necessarily have the raw numbers that Tyler Warren had. And we've talked about this before. Tyler Warren was just putting up the jaw-dropping numbers there at Penn State. And Colston Loveland, he wasn't necessarily doing that, but a lot of it goes back to how that offense was structured. And when you look at it from a market share perspective, there really is no difference in Colston Loveland in a lot of metrics and a lot of variables. He was outperforming every tight end in the nation coming out here for the 2025 rookie draft. And I know that Ferguson, he really stood out at the combine. Fannin, I think he kind of soured some people, but Loveland and Warren, we don't really have any adjustments for them because we didn't see anything. Let me ask before we move on, and obviously you set your price point here on Colston Loveland where you're looking to take him in round 1. If it is just PPR across the board, no tight end premium, where do Warren and Loveland go for you? Where should they go? Because again, in the DD fantasy football Discord community, there are a lot of questions that come up with, hey, if there's no tight end premium, there's 2 good prospects here. How early should I be taking them?
Yeah, in non-tight end premium leagues, you're looking at the back end of the first. So you're going to see Egbuka go over Henderson's gone, Luther Burden's gone, Matthew Golden's probably gone, but it's right after that Matthew Golden pick to where you get to the Trey Harris, Jalen Royals, those guys to where you still, I know it's not tight end premium, but these guys could still be really good tight ends in that league to where in non-tight end premium, if you don't have a good tight end, you have nothing. I mean, you're getting like 3 points a week out of that position.
I was going to say I have a large tier there in tight end premium. I would say that 112 to 202 range for both tight ends if there is no tight end premium. In round 2, you're stealing one of my guys here, so I can get on board with this. But I like Ayomanor. Elic Ayomanor, you're looking to snag him that 203 to 208 range. Wide receiver 7 for you. Who are 2 or 3 wide receivers you have him over that might, make people furrow their eyebrows a little bit?
So Trey Harris, Jalen Royals, Jaden Higgins, those kinds. I have him right after Matthew Golden. And this is always hard with the wide receivers because it's if you include Travis Hunter or not, right? So if you include him, Travis Hunter's above him, but it's so hard to include him right now in the process. But Elic Ayomanor, I believe he gives you that elite upside, but not at the price of Tet McMillan. I think their games are really close to the same. I think they both have great ball skills. I think their top end speed is the one thing you worry about with both of them. But I think Ayomanor is just so close to that same prospect, but no one's really talking about him because that Stanford offense was terrible. I mean, we're just saying Loveland, he kind of struggled with that Michigan one. The Stanford one was so much worse. It was so bad. But like his ball skills are so good that when that ball's in the air, I know he has a lot of contested catches. He comes down with them. So like, I really, really like him. And as a second round guy, I want the guy that I believe can turn into a first round guy at some point. Not a guy who's always going to be worth, an early second kind of, he's always worth kind of what people saw when Tyler Lockett was, not old. He was always worth that early second, never really ever worth an early first. But I think Elic Ayomanor can get there.
Doesn't it feel a little bit like, and maybe it's just the bigger body receiver, maybe it's the way they win down the field and the somewhat higher contested target rate coming out, and even in the NFL for this gentleman. But like T. Higgins, when he came out, he was like that 201, 202 range in a lot of 12-team super flex drafts. And it's kind of like the range that we're talking about here, 203 to 208. I think when it's all said and done, you're going to have to go a little bit more to that 203 to 204 spot. But wide receiver 7, that kind of lines up with where I am. So you're really not concerned about the contested target rate. And it's not like a JJ Arcega-Whiteside type situation.
Well, the thing was, if he was a first round draft pick, I'd be out of him. Like if you're looking at him at the 110, I'm not looking for him there because I do think that could be a serious issue. But he could be a T. Higgins type. And if he can turn into that type of prospect, and I think he has every chance in the world too, just physical gifts wise, then I'm willing to buy in with that with a mid-second round pick.
All right. So talked about tight end, talked about a wide receiver. Moving over to round 3, Dylan Sampson, very early third, 301 to 305. You have him as your running back 7. It's tough with a player like Dylan Sampson because he didn't run the 40.
Yep.
Right. And strictly the 40 is the moneymaker for a lot of fantasy folks, a lot of dynasty folks, whenever you look at combine events. Do you think that is kind of deflating his value right now just because it's a, what have you done for me lately type situation?
Yeah, it's so hard because I had to pick a third round guy who I felt would be in the third round. But if Dylan Sampson comes out, he has a good pro day, then all of a sudden he goes in the third round. He's not a third round pick here. So this is almost a moot point. But as of right now, people have Cam over him still. I think they still have Ollie Gordon over him. DJ Giddens probably has a decent chance of being over him with how well of a combine that he had. But for me, I always talk about Omarion Hampton and how much I loved his tape. Dylan Sampson is right there. And the thing is, he's doing it at like 205 pounds or whatever he is. He is so good at, and his game isn't, hey, I'm going to cut it outside. He's not like that Jahmyr Gibbs type who could just bounce it outside and go. He runs between the tackles extremely well. And And he's really, really fun to watch and showed out this last season. And I do think he's not going to end up being a third round pick. So I kind of felt bad picking him here. But if you don't say him, then you're going to be like, well, Ollie Gordon's going to fall. Then I'm like, okay, well, Ollie Gordon is in this spot for me. Or, hey, Cam Scata Boo goes out and runs 4.55 at his pro day, right? And then, is he the late second? Is he a med second? So there's so many running backs now that this is who I'm looking to get, the running back that I felt good going into this process with. And I still feel good about him now, even though he didn't run the 40.
And since I challenged you with having to pick a player in each round, you very well could be looking at Dylan Sampson 210, 211, 212 when it's all said and done. Is there any concern for you, kind of the limiting pass catching at Tennessee, 40 receptions over 3 seasons, kind of that lower, he just clears at just below 5% college dominator?
It is worrying because I think we've seen it enough now to when these guys don't do it. My comment was always, well, that doesn't mean they can't do it. I'm like, and now I'm kind of seeing it more in your way, but they still should do it in college, right? Even if they can, the offense should want to give them the ball as many times as possible. And if they're not doing the passing game, there should be a question of why. So, I mean, it's a slight worry, but we're talking about a third round guy here. We're not talking about a first round guy. So there's flaws in all of these prospects because that's why they're in the third round. So, but I'm willing to overlook that for Dylan Sampson because I think he's going to go out and run I think you have him in as a 4.35. I think he's definitely lower than a 4.4. He's going to go out and do great as long as his injury heals enough for him to be able to run a 40. And if that's the case, we're probably not talking about a third round guy here.
Going to the 4th round, I didn't want to challenge you too much on this one because it's the end of the 4th.
Okay. Well, you could challenge me on this one. I want to know what the challenge is.
So round 4, Savion Williams, 410 to 412. You have him in that wide receiver 11 to 15 range. He doesn't check any box for me from an analytical perspective.
So wait, hear me out on this before you break down the analytics.
And that makes it hard for me.
Well, let me break it down this way. At the end of the 4th, I'm looking for a guy who could actually be on game day rosters. Savion Williams can be a very good kick returner in the NFL. A team is going to want to put the ball in his hands because as a runner, he is very good. Receiver, he's still lacking a little bit. To me, people loved Laviska Shenault in the 2nd round a few years ago. This dude is Laviska Shenault. He's 2 or 3 inches bigger. And he's not the same like wide receiver prospect, right? But when you're in the 4th round, I want guys that could actually be on game day rosters. And I think Savion offers enough in the return game and can in the NFL, I should say, that he could actually be on game day rosters and not just sit on your taxi squad because you're hoping that at some point, like Roman Wilson last year. I know he actually went a lot of 3rd rounds, right? But I mean, you don't even need to roster him. I don't even know if he's rosterable now. And yeah, he was a lot better in college, but I could never tell myself the story that this guy is startable in fantasy. With Savion Williams, I think there's the hope that there is, as a 4th round guy, that a coach can be like, you know what? I need to give this guy because at TCU, he plays everything. Given this guy a Kadarial Patterson light role in the NFL.
I didn't know where you were going. I thought you were talking about the equator or something.
Yeah. It was close. It was close.
But so that's what I'll give you that one because he gave you 50 rushing attempts here at TCU in 2024. He gives you that yak ability, Isaiah Bond, Jalen Royals, Trey Harris, Xavier Restrepo, Tez Johnson, Pat Bryant, they all outperformed him on a yak per reception basis, but he was still at 6.8, and that's fairly high. But never broke out.
Is Isaiah Bond a 4th rounder? I think he's pretty close to being.
I don't know if I could take Isaiah Bond in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
Right now, I have Isaiah Bond.
The one guy you could probably
mid 3rd to very early 4th.
Yeah. The one guy who he's kind of, everyone wrote off Gunnar Helm the second he ran that 40, and then the pictures came out about the sprained ankle and now it's like, if no one is talking about that guy in a tight end premium in the 4th round, that's actually a decent shot to take there because he was slow, and there's a real reason why he didn't perform well.
Right.
His ankle turned into a cantaloupe.
I'm actually surprised you didn't throw up Jordan James maybe in the 4th.
He's fine. He's just a guy. There's so many running backs that he's just a guy. I mean, I like him still, but I wanted to tell a story about someone else. I think Jordan James can be good. Honestly, he's probably a practice squad guy. Odds are.
Yeah. So going through round 1, we were looking at Colston Loveland. Round 2, Elic Ayomanor. Round 3, Dylan Sampson. Round 4, this is really the only exception I took to this list, Savion Williams. But especially if you are in a league, and there are leagues like this, I would say maybe like 5% of my league, so 1 out of 20 has points for return yards. That could be something that could be intriguing for Savion Williams, as Mitch kind of compared him to an equatorial light. I like that. Equatorial Patterson. I don't even know where the heck that came from. But
it was Catorial. I mean, it wasn't.
Oh, Catorial. There we go.
There were so many T's.
So some players that we're looking to leave our drafts with. And again, it's March 3rd. Whenever this video comes out, it's March 7th. But so much can change. We're going to see what happens in free agency. We're going to see what happens at pro days. And then ultimately the NFL draft with draft capital and landing spots. That is going to be a key determination of how this finally shakes out. There's going to be a lot of movement, and it's going to be an exciting process for everybody here. If there are any topics that you would look to be discussed on Trending Fantasy, again, we try to keep it shorter. I think right now this is the shortest episode we've done so far, but please drop a comment in the chat and leave a comment on the video. Let us know what you'd like to hear or see, and we'll break some stuff down for you. And then make sure you check out the DD Fantasy Football community over at ddfantasyfootball.com. Use code Theory, get 50% off. The War Machine, the Trinity Tool, the Discord community, my cross-positional tiers, and then also make sure you subscribe to the channel. A ton of great content coming out from the DD Fantasy Football community, and drop a like on this video. For Mitch Sorensen, I'm John Bauer. Keep trending.